Hey y'all, Mike here from allamerican.org, and today I am joined by Alan Guyan, the founder and CEO of Made Plus, a great American-made footwear company that is focused on making high performance and sustainable footwear right here in the USA. So Alan, appreciate you taking the time to chat with me today.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you very much, Mike. And I'm looking forward to sharing the viewers of what we have cooking over here.
Excited to dive in. So why don't we go ahead and do that and tell us a little bit more about who Made Plus is and some of the history of the company.
Yeah, Made Plus is an active lifestyle technology company that is changing the way how products are being made and sold, and also experienced. Today, we are more focused on planet positive, domestic manufacturing, being close to consumer. We have a made to order model, which basically allows customers to buy the shoes, get them customized, and then we basically make that to order. This allows us to have a more streamlined waste management system and also allows us, our consumers, to have a more of a customized approach to how they make their shoes. Company's about a little bit over 3 years old. We've been selling shoes for a little over 18 months. We're based in Annapolis, Maryland. So it has its own challenges being in this kind of East Coast corridor
Mhm.
of manufacturing products here. We have a small factory. We're looking to expand at some point in the near future because we are kind of growing out of this space. Yeah, so that's kind of the Made Plus background. And my background is I have almost 3 decades of industrial design experience. I was previewed in the early years of my teens to a machine shop my father owned. And I got to work in the machine shop and did a lot of cool stuff there. I went to
Really
school
cool.
for it, went to school for industrial design as well. And then over the years, I kind of built a nice portfolio of products with major brands, including Under Armour, my last tenure, where I was the director of innovation there. And I made magnetic zipper jackets to 3D printed footwear to making future factories to working with the top end athletes like Tom Brady and Michael Phelps and Cam Newton, a number of athletes. But again, I think what I saw in this whole journey of mine was I really liked making products, and I wanted to bring that product making mentality to this company and make our products more domestically available and produced locally.
That's awesome. I really love your background, both working really in the manufacturing facility and that extensive background with a lot of the big name brands that folks associate with a lot of active footwear. Talk to me a little bit more about the manufacturing process for Made Plus footwear. Folks can learn a little bit more on your website about kind of your distributed manufacturing approach, but what makes the manufacturing approach unique for Made Plus, and why does it work for y'all? And more specifically, around domestic manufacturing, why have you chosen to really focus on domestic manufacturing and being made in America?
Well, I think it starts with the journey of how shoes are traditionally made. I think they're traditionally made overseas. They're traditionally made with over 300 plus steps. And then by the time it gets to the States, they're super, super cheap in some ways. And then they have a wholesale model, which people sell. And yeah, it's a whole kind of a mess, in my opinion, because what happens is during this journey of how shoes are made, they overmake, they
Yep.
overproduction, they over forecast. And during that journey, I actually witnessed a lot of waste. I mean, a massive amount of waste. I'm like, so those shoes are just not going to sell. So if a brand makes 1 million pairs of shoes, about a third of those are pushed to the waste, which is absolutely crazy. And then you take in the amount
Wow.
of steps that are required to make a shoe, um, which typically is about over 300 steps. There's a significant amount of waste in that process because you're kind of like design a shoe and then just said the manufacturing was kind of be second nature versus design for the manufacturing process. So being a manufacturing background that I have, I wanted to make sure that we did a few new things with this footwear company that made us stand out. One of the things is we're all about reducing the waste footprint. Um, So we have a on demand manufacturing model, which means, of course, you order shoes. We do batches as well, but by having on demand, this immediately eliminates the over forecasting model.
Mhm.
Second, we position mostly all raw goods. So between yarn and synthetics and all that stuff, all of it comes in a roll or in a cone of yarn.
Mhm.
That way we can literally position our raw goods to create unique finished goods. Instead of having a bunch of finished goods that won't sell, now we can constantly change our palette, change our designs to fit manufacturing, but also in the same regard, it reduces waste because we're not overproducing something. And we're giving consumers something unique that they didn't get before which was the customization. Um, Another big one for us is having a community around manufacturing, make manufacturing kind of,
Mhm.
sexy in some ways, make it more technology driven. So part of the tools that I brought in this factory was advanced knitting, semi-automated stitching, and 3D printing. And I actually have a few more tools that I'm already pitching and already looking for on the foam and rubber fronts. A different way of doing it, right? And through these different vehicles allows us to build a more technology focused workforce along with bringing some traditional processes into the playbook as well.
I love just pausing on that for a second on just technology driven workforce. I found more and more recently in the last couple of years, just folks leaning in more into technology, both in the footwear industry and just textiles and apparel and other goods in general. I'm part of a couple of communities around my region in the Carolinas where they're really focused on just manufacturing innovation, and that's constantly something that they're bringing up with a lot of really cool groups that are focused on improving those manufacturing processes through technology and aiding the development of a more skilled workforce to still be able to grow jobs in manufacturing in the region, but doing so in a way that's really going to prepare the workforce and these companies for the future. So love that y'all are focusing on that.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things I used to say for years is if we're trying to compete with Asia manufacturing, like, we can't really go one to one.
Right.
We have to get through the whole process. And one thing that we've done here is we've really thought through the A to Z process of between how they're being made and how they're being sold. So part of our, even our forecasting model of how we sell shoes, um, you know, color doesn't necessarily mean much to us. Like if it doesn't sell this year, we have the raw goods and we'll wait to the following year when it does sell when that color comes up. But the other piece is that we have to bring the jobs back differently. I always
Mhm.
struggle with some of the made in America first and so forth. I love the idea of made in America. I mean, it provides jobs for our community and our families and so forth. I also like the idea of like, are we perfecting a process, right? Are we
Yes.
improving the process? And I'm a huge component of like, let's don't make it how they make it. Let's make it a little bit differently. Like let's evolve what they've already started. You know, traditionally, we brought a lot of those jobs over to those countries, and they've had the last 30 years to evolve it, right?
Hmm.
Because their advantage was that and essentially our number one expenses is labor. Cheap labor provides, that workforce and boom, there you got it. Well, we got to bring that labor back differently. And the only way we can do that is through making these people more like craftsmen, engineers, and
Yeah.
designers that think a little bit differently. And they're not just a button pusher, so to say, or just a traditional.
I agree. It has to evolve. We shouldn't just reshore for the sake of reshoring. That's really
Right,
a fact and not a reason to do it, right? And I love the push to continually innovate, learn new skills for our workforce because I think that's going to make us a stronger manufacturing presence globally. I mean,
right.
we have to focus on kind of moving forward in those aspects for sure. Talk to me a little bit more about maybe some of the communities that you're working with in your manufacturing facility. So obviously you have a group of folks in the Annapolis,
Yeah.
Maryland area that you're working with. Are you also working with some other distributed manufacturers across the U.S.? What are some of the communities that you're working with, and how are you impacting those just through your partnerships?
Yeah, I mean, there's just no shortage of community in this footwear space technically. So
Mm,
we do employ locally to Annapolis, Maryland, of course, but we also bring people from out of state. You know, some of these positions, for example, advanced knitting. Not everybody in Maryland knows how to knit. You know, on
yeah,
these crazy kind of machines. So we do got to bring tradesmen and craftsmen from other states. It's still U.S. based, of course. Um, but we also kind of partner with some universities and colleges and along with some high schoolers to see if there's young talent that we can kind of persuade to do some of these trades that people they think it's a trade because they think, excuse me, the notion of the factory is dirty and stinky and the
mhm,
last place you want to be at is the exact opposite we want to present here.
exactly.
Um, because I know what that looks like. I've been there. I was a machinist for a long time, and also I grew out of that. Took different roles and took different education to get me out of that position. But our factory is like, it's clean. It doesn't smell like a footwear factory. It's the skills that the people are using here, they're using a number of skills. It's not just a one, and repetition. Some may change a little bit over time, and some jobs may be more singular focused, but for the most part, um, there's a collection of craftsmen and tools required to make these shoes properly. Um, we also partner with we stay involved in the trade organizations. We stay involved in sustainability is a big message for us. So we belong to a couple different groups. We even source our yarn from North Carolina. Um,
Right.
that allows us to have transparency and allows us to have transparency that we share back to consumer. Also, we pay double price for that yarn, just to give you that transparency and give you that somewhat sustainability story. From our shoes are made from 6.5 water bottles. Um, Yeah, so that's kind of what our community looks like. I would actually expand and going, why the US? Why would we want to make here? And selfishly, I want to control the steps. Um, Practically, I want us to control the steps. So essentially, by controlling all the steps in the process of manufacturing, you become a vertical company. But you also can be a very transparent company. You don't have any hidden agendas. You don't have factories are telling you one thing, but you're selling another, and and your consumer gets confused on what they're actually buying. What you're buying here is American-made products. Yes, there is some stuff that's sourced globally. This is business 101. Like everybody's sourcing stuff globally. But when it comes down to nuts and bolts, like these shoes are made right here in the US. But we can also control the sustainability. We can control the messaging a little bit more. Um, but we really like the idea, the concept, which was from the very beginning, is make local and sell local. So the whole mission here is really to make our products as local as possible and close to the consumer as possible. And we will do the same thing with other countries in the future too, where we'll make that product there. It'll be designed for that country, so for those citizens and for those consumers that are consuming that product. Now, we also have American kind of brand credibility, um, but it will still be sourced and focused on the local community. We do believe in community quite a bit. Um, and then the last, which is should be the first, we can effectively control waste. We can control the waste
Yeah.
management, we can control the transparency of where the waste is going, and we can actually influence in future, hopefully, to get other brands along with us to choose a new path of how we make some of these consumer products that we know are uh, almost greedy waste. It's like you're throwing this stuff away. I mean, there's things you can take into consideration, and some of these brands have taken on these initiatives. And some of these brands have taken a different initiative, or whitewashing or greenwashing, excuse me.
Yeah.
And I think what we try to do is be transparent, but also realize that the economy's in a certain spot. Like there's only so much sustainability we can actually do to make this product. But I think there's a lot more we can do as a team, as a collective community, to actually influence to make a better product and make better decisions on how we make it.
And you're also providing just a great example for other companies that may come later on how to potentially make progress
Yeah,
on
absolutely.
waste management and sustainability. So I think that's really important as well. And you said early on that the quality control is a bit selfish, but also incredibly practical. And I think that's one of
Yeah,
the things
yeah,
that I hear consistently from a lot of American-made companies is that QA and control is so much better to have stuff locally sourced and locally made because it not only impacts the way that you can operate your business and create high quality products for consumers, but that, that also just has great effects on the folks who are purchasing the products because, man, maybe their customer service team is super close to the folks who are actually making the products, and that feedback loop is really short. Or, you just have much more visibility into the transportation of raw materials or
yeah.
finished products into consumers' hands. And I think that just has enormous benefits for not only consumers knowing what they're purchasing, but also just purchasing higher quality products that are going to last for longer.
I would actually expand on that just for 1 second too, is that as you look through the lens of like, wholesale and so forth and how you, I mean, push those shoes out. It's a challenge for us, I gotta be honest, because we're making these shoes locally. Wholesale typically demands 50% of your margin right
Yeah.
up front, right? So those are some inherent challenges that you get with a domestically made product. Um, and then you have a scale proportion thing too that's also kind of weighs on you. Like you got to move the product, you got to really sell it, to um make the case viable.
Yeah.
The
There's like,
development center makes sense. A lot of people develop here and then they transport it overseas to do that, and that's fine as well. A lot of brands are very successful, and it's a lot of ways to get entry into the market. um we just approach it a little differently.
yeah, I love the approach. And, like you said, there's a little bit less margin for error, just sort of less options available in terms of some channels that are more fitting for brands that are outsourcing overseas. But for folks who can find y'all through the
Yeah,
channels that,
yeah.
you offer your products in, obviously, they're incredible. And I think, really great example in the footwear manufacturing community about how to produce something that's super high quality, low waste, and honestly, just a really cool product. Like
Yeah,
y'all's custom made to order stuff where you can color
yeah.
customize and things like that. It honestly reminds me of some of the big brands like in Under Armour that you used to work for, or Nike, where you're customizing a lot of your sneakers and getting all of the different cool color
Well,
combinations
the
and stuff.
reality is, with the exception of like maybe like a Nike or somebody, but most of these big brands can do this.
Yeah.
Um, they, yeah, one thing I left out was the 18-month calendar, by the way. So most traditional brands live off 18-month calendar. We don't really live off a calendar. We live off a year. So like every year we have two or three shoes that we're going to drop, and this is the
Hmm.
shoes. And guess what the palette is? It's these colors. And we're going to add each a new color, two, three colors, excuse me, 3 to 4 colors per year we add to our palette. But now our palette's like a box of crayons. We can mix and match it. Like
Yeah.
we always have to sell a purple shoe. We can sell purple shoes during, game day stuff. We can sell uh, you know, red shoes, when we want to, level that up for the athlete and so forth. So shorten the calendar is another big one too, because a lot of these brands, when they get to the part of the forecasting problem is 18 months later, well, the market's moved. So that third of waste is part of that issue with the calendar. So they'll sell, make a bunch of shoes up, thinking they're going to sell. Well,
Hmm.
customers don't want a teal shoe. They don't want a red shoe at that time, for some reason, and now they're sitting on it. So it's one of the other things we look at as well.
Nice. It's very calculated. I love your just kind of data-driven approach to how you're sourcing materials and just being really thoughtful around the inventory that you keep and how that influences the shoes and the types of products that you offer folks. I think it's really smart.
Yeah, I think it's hard in the beginning, when you get set up. That's why the big brands
Yeah.
have trouble doing it because they have their lot, they've sold on to all these accounts. It's a whole different way of thinking about making and buying and selling.
Mhm.
And and it's still TBD if it works. I mean, again, it's very costly to produce in the States. I could see hybrid options and potentially in the future where, you may have some stuff that's your premium crop, and you may have some stuff that services what I call a risk-free need, like we say all black shoes always sell.
Great. Well, I know we've kind of danced around a few of your different products around some of the made to
Yeah.
order stuff and then some of your typical products that and footwear that you offer. But talk to me a little bit more about maybe some of the feature stuff. So what are some of your most popular products that you offer? What is some of the feedback that you consistently get from your customers on what they love most about them? And yeah, just what's your product offering look like today?
Great question. We offer kind of an active lifestyle was our first entry to the market. So we kind of we're in a sailing community here in Annapolis, Maryland. So Chesapeake Bay's right here,
Mhm.
Naval Academy's here. So first we want to pay homage to our community and make a nautical focused shoe, which is also kind of a lifestyle look. So the Skiff 1 and then Skiff 2 both are kind of focused around the nautical space, but also could be fairly easily worked as office
Yeah, I mean, they look
lifestyle.
like great everyday wear shoes
Yeah,
for sure.
the idea was the everyday shoe is the original thought. Um, but we realized that well, I should say we realized I just want to make more shoes. I mean, and I want to play in more categories
Yep.
and have more offering. One thing we saw in the beginning is, well, I don't want that kind of shoe. I want a running shoe. All right, all right. Well, I don't want that type of shoe. I want that type of shoe. So as we do more and more public events and stuff, we realize that the consumers are telling us what they want right out of the
Mhm.
gate. And one of those things is pickleball. So pickleball is just explosive. So coming from a sports background, I didn't want to go right head to head. Yeah, thank you. Um, this is one of our latest pickleball shoes. And we're
Love
actually
it.
so popular that we need to develop another shoe. So there'll be a pickleball shoe two probably drop later this year. The Banger, it's called the Banger. This one's called the Banger 1 and Banger 2.
Nice.
But what's kind of fun about this is now we can be more of that experience driven brand where you can go sailing in the evening or in the morning and then go play pickleball in the evening. And eventually we have a running shoe coming out this fall, excuse me, this spring. And it's all about the experience there, right? Now you're going to go on a
Hmm.
run in the morning. You're going to do this. So essentially, what sets us apart is that you get a little bit of transparency, you get some customization, and then you get the performance. And then wrapped in a nice big bow is that we bring the community together to tell that story and to tell that product experience for our consumers and so forth. So it is kind of a fun thing. Um, so Skiff 1, Skiff 2. We also have Pickleball 1 and 2 in the pipeline. We have running, which is teed up. And then there's a couple special other things I won't mention on here today that we're having the back half of the year that
Love it.
if I can pull it together with all these other crazy shoes, then we can do it. Problem with making a lot of different shoes is you overload the factory with a bunch of new complicated steps.
Right.
So part of our philosophy in the factory is, you know, major steps can got to be under 15 minutes, major things that require a lot of um, manual craftsmanship, we try to massage that to be a hybrid role where using some assisted machinery and then some of that craftsmanship versus just more of like a production model. And then, the big seller for us, and a lot of happens a lot, is that US made and 6.5 water bottles. I would never thought that was going to be the big hook for a lot of people, but and then performance comes like third. But hopefully over the time that 6 ounce water balls is part of our technology story, and we'll have other technology stories we'll tell in the future. But essentially, our product will go back to the experience performance driven hook that drives people who want to buy it.
Love it. I mean those.
People love our fit. That's one thing that you asked a question about earlier.
Mm,
Why do people like our shoes? Is the fit is, and that's why the knit I think is so superior in some cases because it's a one-to-one consumption machine. We're actually making the uppers on the textile side.
yep.
On the flip side is you usually get a better fit because it's kind of like a compressed sock around your foot.
Yeah, the upper is a lot more unique than some of the other brands that you see out there, and maybe a little bit similar to some of the we'll call it like new age type running shoes
Yeah,
that you might
yeah.
see with like that, yeah, that compressed sock look for sure. But really cool. So you mentioned some of the new products that y'all are coming out with in the spring and later this year, and then tease some stuff that you can't quite talk about yet. What else does the future hold for Made Plus? Where are y'all headed?
This is my excitement face. I'm just gonna put it on real quick. Um, this company is like a like a breathing machine. And I say that lightly, but it's really is like it's everybody's a little different. Every process is a little different. Between teammates to product to suppliers, you name it, always something going on. What really gets me excited is that we are continuing to make new products. We're continuing to expand on our existing product. We're continuing to refine our processes that makes the product even faster or more efficient. Um, I was meeting with a team prior to this meeting, and the guy goes, "We can make more now." I'm like more per week, and he's like, "Yeah, like we could go, you know, more," and that's exciting. I mean, that's just the manufacturing side.
Yep.
The growth with the pickleball side. Pickleball is like on fire right now. Like there's just everybody wants to be part of the pickleball community. The athletes, we signed an athlete a couple weeks ago. It'd be a big announcement like towards the end of
Really
February.
cool.
And it's exciting because I've worked with some of the best athletes in the world. So at a big brand. So now like being on this side of the fence where I'm like begging for, I wouldn't say begging, but like work with us to tell our story and
Yeah,
wear our
absolutely.
product. Um, we finally, Caitlin, our director of marketing, bird dogged and found a really good, what I call a trifecta athlete. And it fits a lot of different buckets. She's a celebrity in some cases, and she's a pro in some cases. She's a woman, which is another big thing that we like to talk about. Is I have 2 daughters, but also we want more empowerment of women in good in positions. I get excited about the growth. So, we're at size factory now. Uh, we need to go bigger if we want to really hit scale. We have a commercial factory that needs to hit scale. So scale needs to be a bigger size. We're already talking to some new athletes that we've already worked with, some old athletes we worked with, excuse me, new athletes we haven't worked with, old athletes we have worked with are coming back. Um, but to be honest with you, I'm a product guy. I love new stuff.
Yep.
And I love the journey of the stuff. I think where I get bored at is when you've seen it for like a year. You're like, okay, I need it to be away. I need new stuff. But the fun thing about us is that even the old stuff is fun stuff because just color, just changing colors, changing the patterns a little bit, changing the platform a little bit, and a new product arrives. And you're like, wow, I would not have expected that. I would give you a good example. Our custom engine, just for one of our SKUs, has like a billion combinations. Billion.
Wow.
I mean, when we first started, this is all transparent. When we first started, it was like a couple 100,000. It was like 3 or 4 options. As time went on, we just added more colors, we added more options for the consumer. We still haven't added the graphic piece, which is a huge bucket that we're going to be talking about later this year. Um, which that's infinite again. But having the ability to have these custom engines that can create a lot of different looks. It also gets into team sports, between enterprise, athletes. We do nautical crews and sail crews where, it's all whites, all blacks, all grays, all navies. I mean, again, I would never have thought you could figure out color in some ways. And I don't think we have it completely figured out, but I think we have a very good handle on it. Um, the idea is run out of color, is to use the color up, and then you order a new color. That way we aren't wasting it, right? We're not over forecasting it. So those are all some really fun stuff that excites me. And then my other favorite thing that excites me is watching the teams develop. Like talk my community's here, right?
Yep,
So watching them hire at one spot and then take leadership and ownership and make decisions, good decisions, and then become like like a really effective leader, and all of a sudden didn't expect that, or the results of what they get, with the product and so forth. So it's exciting watching that journey too, watching them grow over time into the assets they are for the company.
love it. I can sense a little bit of restlessness within you, but in a really good way, where you're constantly thinking about what are the new products that we're going to offer? How are we going to innovate on the manufacturing side? How are we going to be more sustainable? How are we going to engage our community more, build the team within Made Plus? And I think that's a really attractive quality that a lot of other great American manufacturers can embody. So kudos to you, Alan, and the rest of the
Thank you.
team on such an
I'll tell
awesome
you something I
journey so
tell.
far.
Yeah, thank you. I'll tell you something that I do for all my I interview people. I really have two things. One is I like being direct and honest. And some people don't like being direct, some people don't like being honest, but
I love
that's
it.
a big thing. And then the second is like I like to empower teammates to get the max out of them, like to really push them to the next level. So this is not a job that I want necessarily people to, you know, I wouldn't say even fear, but more or less, I want them to want to excel, like want to make decisions, right?
Absolutely.
Because as more empowerment happens, then it gives me some freedom to focus on some other things, but also the results, you get better results. And I'm just a firm believer of that. So
Love it. Oh, Alan, thank you so much for spending some time with me today.
thank you.
For our viewers, make sure to leave a comment below if y'all have any questions about Made Plus. We'll be monitoring everything. And then make sure to visit madeplus.com to check out all of the great footwear and other products that Alan and the team are producing, and keep a lookout for all of the
And
new drops.
madeplus.us is our Instagram handle too.
Awesome. Cool. We'll drop that in the video description as
Okay.
well. And thanks for watching, and see y'all next time.